Welcome to the Illume Connect channel. Today we delve into the world of leather craftsmanship. I'm Savannah Keller, and today I'm thrilled to have with us George Kubik, a remarkable leather craftsman whose journey spans continents and careers. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Savannah.
I'm really
Pleasure
happy to
be
have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So, George, can you tell us, you grew up in a home, your parents were Eastern European, and you experienced several different cultures before you came to the United States.
Yes, so being raised by Eastern European parents, that was a very strict upbringing. At that particular time, so I was born in the mid-50s, and at that time the culture was boys do boys work, girls do girls work, and that's how I was raised. And my dad was a very strong, opinionated person who taught me everything I needed to know, like how to fix things and make things and build things. And then we settled eventually in the Los Angeles area of California. And I just grew up a normal kid. We did speak German growing up. And I remember as a 5-6-year-old young man, I realized quickly it wasn't cool to speak German. Mm-hmm. So I learned English in literally probably a couple weeks. Okay. And then my parents didn't understand me because I wouldn't speak German anymore because we were in America. Mm-hmm. And then you know, as I grew up, you know, went to school, high school, and then into the military. I was Americanized.
That's incredible. I took 8 years of the German language, and I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Yeah, it to me it was a simple language. Now I can speak it almost well, but I can't read or write it. So, but anyway, it's a great language.
So you've said in the past that your father had a great love for working with his hands. Yes. I think your word was tinkering. Tinkering, yes. How did that affect or steer you towards leather craftsmanship when you're working with your hands all day?
Yes. So my dad had a workshop wherever we lived. I remember as young as I can remember, he had a workshop, and he was always real good about giving me my own little workstation. I had all my own tools. You know, it was just wonderful. He'd throw things on my workbench and he'd say, take it apart. And anyway, so that's how I was raised. I took everything apart, I could never put it back together. So I joined the service and I traveled to West Berlin, Germany at the time. It was still, you know, the Iron Curtain and the Cold War, and the wall was still up. And there was an American rodeo contractor that traveled Western Europe and put on rodeos. So I was a young, athletic 20-year-old, and I said, hey, I'd like to try that. Got involved with it, realized that you had to have gear. You had to have boots and bareback riggings and bull ropes and all the stuff that goes with the events. And I couldn't afford them because I was only an E1 in the military. And so everybody gave me their old gear as a kind gesture. And then I thought, I'll fix it. And I ordered some sewing thread, needles, hammers, and copper rivets, and pulled my kitchen table into the living room and made a shop out of it. And that's how the leather part started.
Did you start fixing things for others while you were there?
I did, yeah. So as I was fixing the gear that I needed to use for competition, all the other guys started calling me the Tack Guy and bringing all their stuff for me to stitch up or put a rivet in here or do something. And at that time, the bull riders and the bareback riders would tie their boots onto their feet. Mm-hmm. But they did it back then with dog collars. So they would just go to the store, buy a dog collar, and tie it up on their boot. And so I thought, what a cool idea to put their names on them, you know, to make dog collars and put their names on them. And I did that for a couple of my friends. And the next thing I know, everybody wanted one. And I thought to myself, wow, I can make a little cash here. And that's how that side hustle started. And then urban cowboy craze was big in 1970s, John Travolta and that movie. And then everybody was wearing cowboy belts. And that's kind of where I realized there's money in this game.
Yeah. So, correct me if I'm mistaken, after the Air Force, you somehow ended up in Illinois and then Alaska, and that's kind of where your leather craftsmanship took off. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was actually still in the Air Force.
Okay.
So I left initially West Texas, and then I went to Illinois. And with that, so I went from Europe to Illinois. And there was the firefighter school for the Air Force, and the firefighters used a lot of leather gear in their trades. So I was fixing and making firefighter straps and radio cases, and they had badge wallets. They graduated, they would get a badge. So I made badge wallets, and I was full-time Air Force at the time, so this was a side gig. But yeah, so I went from doing tack, horse tack, to making firefighter gear, to repairing, or to making badge wallets. And then we left there to Alaska. And Alaska is where I started the knife sheath game. So, real quick little story, I had a dentist who did work on me in the military, and I had this this little overhanging tooth, and in the military they don't do cosmetic work, they just do what you need. And I remember every time I'd get to know him, and he found out I did leather work, and you know, he was a hunter, and he had bought some knives, and he said, "Can you make me a sheath?" And I said, "Sure, I can make a sheath." Never had made one before, but I made one. He liked it. He started sending me all his knives, his friends' knives, and the next thing I know, he fixed my teeth cosmetically. You know, he wasn't supposed to, but he had a good source, and then I had a good source. So anyway, that's how that started. And then I got involved with the Alaska Knife Makers Association. I did a lot of hunting and fishing while I was there, so I got truly into the lifestyle. So I always had a knife hanging off my hip, and you know, the more I became known, the more sheaths I made. I started a little side business called Alaska Knife Leather, and probably made hundreds and hundreds of sheaths while I was in Alaska.
And you still do?
I still do. That's my favorite project, yes.
Yes. You then moved to Arizona a little bit later, and that's where the George cubic leather started.
That's where the ViktorGeorge.
ViktorGeorge,
yes. And,
leather started.
Right.
But do you still take all the things you learned from those hunters, from those firemen, do you still take that into your knife sheath making these days?
As far as what I learned with all those different projects, oh, absolutely. All of that taught me fabrication steps, you know, how to glue two straps together with a skive lap, sewing. So again, being self-taught, I did all of that by myself. I didn't know. But yes, all of those steps taught me the basic mechanics of leatherwork. The only thing that the knife sheaths did was it's a whole different game, because you have to incorporate the function of the user carrying the knife. It's not just on your hip. The weight and the balance of the knife on the belt line, where it's supposed to sit, and all that good stuff. So that really taught me a lot more as far as the mechanics of carrying a knife.
Every time I talk to somebody, they talk about, I learned why they like to carry it this way from this, you know, demographic of people, or I lived here and I learned this. And it's funny how everything we do adds up to making a quality product because of the ideas and the people we've met.
Right.
So tell us about the ViktorGeorge leather goods and how that came to be.
Well, in 2018, I no. I got to Arizona with the Air Force in 1991, and I retired in 94. And then I did a 23-year career with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. And of course, all that time I was doing my leather work and all that other good stuff. But when I retired in 2018, I thought, you know, now I can do what I've loved to do on the side the rest of my time. And my dad's name was Victor, and my uncle, my namesake, was George. And I thought, well, I'll try to modernize the business name a little bit and call it ViktorGeorge Leather Goods. Because prior to that, it always had a Western flavor, like Jeep RC, you know, that kind of stuff. So ViktorGeorge allowed me to do more than just Western stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how ViktorGeorge started, and I found out about Instagram. I am not a tech-savvy person at all, but I found out about that, and I was able to see how other people made certain things, and it took off from there. And I had a nice little business for a while, and that's how that all started.
That's great. Your leathercraft is known for its creativity and its personal touches. Where do you draw your creativity from? You probably work with many people, and somehow you find that personal touch for everybody.
Yeah, I think in knife sheaths, which is my favorite part of leatherwork. I do a few other things, but knife sheaths is the best product for me, the best project, because I sort of grew up in Alaska with the hunting guides and the wilderness trekkers and all of these people that demanded certain things about a knife. And that's really where I learned to love specializing in outdoor knife leather. I've seen people, and I love it, carving every aspect of the sheath, and you know, the edges are glass and shiny, and I love the talent that it takes to do that. But that's not me. My work logo concerning that, or tagline, or whatever it's called, is rugged, reliable, and repairable. That's kind of the way I like to look at it, that my sheaths will lend themselves well to sitting on the dashboard of an old truck in the middle of a field. That's kind of what I envision.
You cater to such a very diverse group, but also the diverse group is looking for something that's reliable in every situation, and that's great. You definitely answered the question there.
Yeah, I do have one point that I wanted to add to that, and knife sheaths have been the same for generations, right? There's not much that you can do to a knife sheath, right? And so that's where my creativity, my brain pings. I'll be asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll think of something, I'll get up, I'll jot it down, and if I think about it and I can't sleep, I'll jump to the shop and I'll try to, you know, do it. So I just try to incorporate into my work things that nobody else has seen. It's kind of hard to do. So I've worked with some different ideas, I could speak on that for hours, but I'll just say I'm always looking for something that is different, that nobody else sees, that nobody else has thought of. Because, you know, when somebody sees that, they go, "Ooh, I want that." That's what I'm looking for, that piece.
I get that. But other than your 2 a.m., which I think we've all been there, that 2 a.m., you're like, man, I was sleeping, but now I got an idea. Where does that process start for you when you're trying to conceptualize something that's not the same in, as you said, a product that has been made since time began?
Right, exactly.
Where do those ideas start for you?
Well, they start in actual experience in the field. Actually carrying a knife of different sizes, different types. I love a good knife. When I'm out in the field, I probably have 3 knives on me and a couple more in my pack. So I've worn them. I know what sheaths work and what sheaths don't work. And and then I've always just thinking, how could I make this work even better? For those that understand knife sheaths, there's an item called a dangler, which is it's actually pretty common, and a lot of people are using it nowadays. But I wanted to have a different dangler kind of system. So instead of having a dangler system, I wanted to incorporate this swivel into the back strap on the knife sheath, so that you didn't have to have that. And so that was one of those things that was kind of like, oh, cool. Nobody else has those. And that's what I like doing. Just finding something that works that nobody else has.
Yep. That real life experience of, man, this would be great if it existed. I'll make it exist.
Right, exactly. I love that. That's right.
Yeah. Perfect. So we're here in the Illume Learning Platform Studios, and you're teaching. How did you get to this point of teaching? Because I know you have your channels, and you share so much on those channels, which is great, and we've asked you to come here. So how did you get to this point of wanting to share your craft with other craftsmen?
I think that because I was self-taught, and so I really started in my interest in leather, 76, 77 time frame, but it really didn't take off until I was hooked in 79, 80-ish. And then I'm a researcher. I love studying. You know, back then you didn't have any of the, means of, finding stuff out. So I would go to shoe repair shops, I'd go to saddle shops, peek in the window, just shoe shops, and just anything that I could gather, because there was nothing. There was an old magazine, I think it was called Make It With Leather or something to that effect. Pretty good magazine, but it really was more of a hobbyist, kind of a very simple concept magazine. But I wanted to make stuff. And so I just started making stuff, and without anybody's help, I just figured out, made tools that I thought would work, and learned it all on my own. And then when I found the channel, I thought, you know what? If there's brand new people out there, I said, I'll just share some of the experiences that I had early on. And, the more people, and early on too, I thought that the craft was dying. Come to find out, it is exploded.
It has.
Thanks to, companies and businesses like Illume, and it's just back. And I'm so happy, because there was a time where I thought, this is not going to last. So anyway, because of the fact that I had to make stuff up and learn, I thought I would share those things that were made up and unorthodox, and things that I think that they would enjoy learning, and that's what I've been showing, and it's been pretty popular. So it's nice, yeah.
Yep, you do some great work, and that pay it forward attitude is just fantastic. You are right. The dying arts are coming back, and
yes, I love
and
it.
it's great.
It is, yeah.
So what have you been teaching here at the studios in the last few days?
My favorite subject, knife sheaths. So one of the things from talking with Derek and Misty and Rachel that I wanted to bring here was, since this is my very first time, and I wanted to show a very classic traditional style of building a knife scabbard. Something that could have graced the covers of the 1960s issue of Field and Stream and Outdoor Life. And so I wanted to start with such a basic knife sheath. And the problem that I had through the years was not the sharpest tool in the drawer sometimes, so I have to make things easy for me. So I came up with this grid measurement patterning technique for me, to make it easy for me. And then it developed into a technique that I thought, wow, somebody else can copy what I'm doing, line by line, measurement by measurement, and then do it exactly the same thing. So that's how that developed. and I brought it here to a loom. And then the second project, so the classic knife sheath is the first project. I wanted to change it up a little bit too, because I didn't want to just bring something that everybody has seen before, and so I changed it up a little bit for the safety strap system. So instead of it being a safety strap that goes across the handle, which is your most recognizable type of knife sheath, I developed a wedge or a shelf that incorporated a safety strap, so it serves two purposes. So I showed that here for the first time, which is something I wanted to do because I do have that YouTube channel, and I want to give something that is not on my channel. And then the second project, again using that grid measurement system, I had a knife sheath that I designed in 1997, and wrote an article in whatever the magazine was at the time. It wasn't Shop Talk or Harness News. It was the Craftsman's Journal or something, whatever it was at that time. So I wrote an article explaining how I built that design and why, and so I took that concept. So it's been around for a long time, but it's always been designed to be carried on the hip, just straight up and down, pretty common. And I thought, well, again, for the loom students or the audience here in your classes, I wanted something unique. So I took that basic pouch sheath, showed them how to build it, and then designed a panel that the sheath could ride on, specifically in a vertical, horizontal, or a cross-draw fashion. And it distributes the weight better for the heavy type knives, and so that was a first. So I'm glad I brought it here to a loom.
I'm glad you brought it here.
Yeah.
I bet the community can't wait to learn from you.
Yes.
So you've had this incredible journey that spanned continents and different careers and a lot of different life changes. What is the thing that you're most proud of in your journey to this point in leather crafts?
Oh, besides taking raw material and having a concept and turning it into a tangible item that people go, ooh, that's cool, that's exciting. It still is, and it always will be. But I think in the last couple of years, probably what really excites me is I have, where I live in Naho, there's a lot of retirees, and they have a tendency to get bored. And so I've invited some to come into the shop and build, a knife sheath or build a holster or build something. And I've had such great happiness with that, because watching them, and two of the, I've had an 8-year-old child, and I've got two well into their 80s, and a whole bunch in between that. But I think just watching them realize, wow, I could do this, if I have a little bit of guidance, and then you show me what to do, and I can make something. And just watching them come alive when they hold an item in their hands. For example, my dad always told me growing up, he always said, everything is easy when you know how. And it's such a simple quote. And I thought, well, it is true, because I'm a visual learner. Yeah. I can't read a book and make something happen. I can watch somebody and I can do it. So using that philosophy of showing people and then watching them turn something into a pretty cool little item and watch them smile out of the shop. And I have, it's funny, it's been there 6 years now. It's become a 6-year tradition. Every year, the Mormon boys or girls, depending on who's there, the first group that I met 6 years ago, they said, hey, we'd like to come into the shop and do some work. And I said, oh, sure, that'd be cool. So every time a new group comes, there's always the leader at the end. So he brings the next group in, and they build things, and then that leader brings the next group in. It's been like that for 6 years, and I always look forward to it. And it's pretty cool.
Well, as somebody who wants to carry on that legacy, wants to share the craft with so many, which is so great. I mean, it wasn't 20 or 30 years ago that people would walk into somebody else's shop and the sheet goes over and coffee break starts. And we love teachers. We love those that want to pass that on to the next generation. But as somebody who is a part of that, is there something that you wish you knew that 10, 15, 20 years ago that you know now? What would that be? It's a hard one.
That is a hard one because I never knew what I missed until I learned something, you know. So I think, wow, I thought to myself, I could just about answer any question you had. But
Stumped you.
You did stump me because there isn't anything that I can think of in my brain other than slow down. I was always in a hurry for the next step. And I don't know if that's part of my personality. You know, sometimes I wouldn't let the glue dry. Sometimes, you know, I just said, I want to visualize what the next step looks like, and then the next step and the next step. And I think if I would have learned to just slow down, let the glue dry, let the moisture come out of the leather, be patient, don't get frustrated. That's all I got for you. That's what I wish I would have. Maybe that was maturity, you know, as I got older, I started realizing that, you know, I have to slow down. Just, you're going to mess up. And if you keep messing up, take a break, get away from it for a while, and probably not an A+ answer, but that's my answer.
That's a great answer. Slow down.
Slow down. Right.
Slow down and let the process take its course.
Right, and enjoy the process. Don't be eager to see the next step. So that's it.
That's fantastic. What is the next big thing for you? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I just doing this and continuing my YouTube channel, keep teaching in my shop. I've retired from doing any custom work, so I'm not doing work for anybody. So I get to play, I get to be creative. I'm looking for that holy grail sheath that nobody else had ever seen. Again, that's elusive, but I'm working on that. Something that is it. You know, this is it. This is perfect. This is going to change the way a knife sheath looks.
That's great.
Probably won't happen, but I'll try.
You know, goals and dreams is what keeps this legacy going, isn't it?
That's right. Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
And to keep pushing on and being excited to get up the next day and do something creative with your hands, and it doesn't matter what the medium is, you know, just do something.
Do something, that's right. We all need something to look forward to.
That's right.
So tell us, it's been just so nice to talk to you and visit with you. One more time, what is your Instagram and your YouTube channel so people can find you?
Okay, my Instagram is ViktorGeorge Leather Goods, and Victor is spelled with a K, Viktor. That's to my European dad. And my YouTube channel, I think it's just ViktorGeorge Leather Goods YouTube, I think. Okay. I'm not savvy enough to know how to put a link in my stuff, you know, so I just put it out there. I always tell people, if you want to find me, type in Knife Sheath School, and then you'll find the channel, and that's the only way I can get people there. Knife Sheath School. And you'll be found, or they can find you here at the Illume Studios. Absolutely. Teaching. I hope to be back. I love this place. So. Well, we're so grateful that you came and that you spent your time with us and shared with the students. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been an amazing experience. So.
All right, everyone, keep an eye out for George's classes on our Loom learning platform. Thank you for joining us today, and make sure you click back in for more interviews just like this one.